So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. It's fantastic to see you all. We're joined today by the brilliant Amber and Danny from Sleeping Giant Media. Sleeping Giant are based over in Folkestone and they help businesses succeed in the digital world. So you're in pretty good hands this morning, which is fantastic. Today's event, we sort of felt like mixing it up a little bit. It's all about you guys. I know some of you have submitted some questions during registration at the beginning, which is fantastic. So we'll go through those questions for you, and obviously any questions you have during the event too, ask away. There's no silly questions, so please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll make sure to go through them as well. Said about the chat, which is fantastic. Probably quite a short and sweet introduction from me this morning, really. So I'll probably hand straight over to Danny and Amber.
Oh, lovely. You called us amazing. Amazing, Danny and Amber. Thank you.
Like a magic show.
We're not a magic show. Also, just to counteract the two people in a room thing, because some of you have never seen a Zoom call, I imagine two people on the other end of a call. So we live together. We're not breaking any social distancing rules. So welcome to our living room. Normally, day to day, we are managing the brand and the marketing elements of Sleeping Giant Media. So we're not client facing, we're Sleeping Giant Media facing. So we do this kind of day to day, social media, all marketing channels. So we thought it'd be quite cool to kind of just chat to some of you guys. Normally on training sessions, we have a lot of slides, and I have some today based on the questions that you guys put forward. But as Molly said, it's about you guys talking to us and asking us about your business. So let me just share some slides, and whilst I do that, I will hum. How do I bring that window to the front? Bear with me. Sorry, I've had a lot of internet problems. Can you see my screen? I've had a lot of Wi-Fi problems today, hence why we're sitting in the lounge. We do have a purpose-built office upstairs for this kind of thing, but the Wi-Fi is really bad. So if it skips in and out today, I do apologise. So welcome, as Molly said. Oh, that's just addressing the two of us on the one shot. So we're Bert and Ernie essentially for the rest of the afternoon, morning. We represent Sleeping Giant Media. Like I said, we do it for the business. So anything you know about Sleeping Giant Media or have seen about Sleeping Giant Media has normally come through Amber or myself or the two other people in my team. So that's what we do. Lots of different types of content, lots of different channels, lots of different marketing opportunities. Obviously, as an agency, social media is a big part of what we do. But there are millions of channels that we kind of, well, not millions, hundreds of channels, I imagine, that we work through. It does feel like millions of channels that we push our marketing messages through, social media being one of them, of course. This is the kind of state of Sleeping Giant Media's marketing right now, because we're both here talking to you guys. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of ask the questions about your business, so you can kind of take advantage of that, really. I've got some rules of engagement, if that's okay, with a lot of you. I need your questions in the chat. I can't see the chat. Let me open up the chat. Questions in the chat, always appreciated. Please do chuck them in there. I'm sure you'll have more as we go along. We're here today without many slides, so we're going to have to use our brains, is half of this, but I do have access to a ton of slide deck information. So if we do go off topic and we want to talk about something in a bit more detail, there are slides that will help us back that up, but really we're here today just to kind of give you some consultation. Rule number 2 is to support each other's business on social media. I think as a network, the chamber, we should be supporting all those businesses with our social media. So if we're here today, I shouldn't occupy myself with the chat. If you're here today to kind of improve what you're doing on social media, the best way you can do that is to support each other and create a bit of a network together. And obviously, if you can do that after the session, that'd be great. And also appreciate the effort it takes to be good at something. So we deliver a lot of social media training, and a lot of people want to be really good without putting any effort in. And I think there's obviously a real balance between being good at something and how much effort you put into it. So my thing with social media is you'll get out of it what you put into it. So if you don't have the time to put into it, you won't get too much out of it. So that's where we should kind of set our expectations. It's the kind of learning cycle, isn't it? You know, we do something, we get better at it, we do something different, we get better at it again. So really I wanted to ask this question, is social media really worth it? But this question, why are you guys using social media? So in your chat, can you just put like one word or like a couple of words that sum up why you're using social media, or what is it you're trying to do with social media? And that might be selling, that might be networking, it might, there might be lots of different reasons, but what is it you're trying to do? Brand awareness, bringing new business. Excuse me while I sip water. Brand, deliver partners, audience reach, educate people, communication, brand awareness.
All very good answers. Yeah,
all of them are really good answers. And that's the thing, isn't it? We use social media in lots of different ways. That's credibility, educate potential customers, connecting with customers during the pandemic. And we've seen social media use go through the absolute roof during the pandemic, especially in business. They're all really, really good answers. The marketer inside me, expand potential audiences, yep, perfect. The marketer inside me wants a bit more than that. And for us, our core function of social media, all of those things are part of it, and we want to achieve all of those things: reach, audience, brand awareness, a voice, all of that stuff. But ultimately, we want people to just come to our website. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what I want them to do. Because once I get them there as a marketer, I can do much more with them than I can when they're sitting on a social media platform. So I just wanted to kind of highlight this a little bit in terms of what is it we want people to do. And anyone that's seen any Sleeping Giant Media talk ever will be familiar with the See, Think, Do, Care funnel. And it's really our journey online as an individual. So not just on social media, but online generally. So it's See, Think, Do, Care. It's a bit like the awareness, interest, desire, action model of marketing. So we see something online, we forget about it forever. We think about it and maybe we do a search, or we go to their Facebook page, and then maybe an advert or something gets us later and we do something, and later on we might share that product that we've bought on social media, and that's the care element. Yeah, call to action. So really we've got to think about what is social media trying to do for us and our business, okay? So if you want just to focus on the see and the think, which a lot of you said brand awareness, and that's see and think, then we have to create content that achieves that, or do social media activity that achieves that, but measure it on that success, okay? So you can't go, I want brand awareness, but I'm going to measure on how many sales I make, because the two things don't collate. In order to measure brand awareness, we have to measure how many people know about our brand, and there's lots of ways we can do that. So funnels are really important. Excuse me whilst I take some water. This is the first question. Has anyone got any questions now that they want to chuck into the chat about their business and their social media? Otherwise, I will answer this question. And forgive me, I didn't put the names of the people that wrote the questions in the chat. Maybe Molly could help, or Amber can help you.
This question is from Az from PPM.
Is Az in the call?
Regardless, it's a very good question.
It's a very good question. So the question is, how do you make social media posts into a sale of a product or a service? And that's kind of a killer question, isn't it? We go back to the funnel. And yes, Tina's just put in the chat by showing the benefit of the product service to the customer. It's a funnel, isn't it? Exactly right. We need to be creating content that gets a user through that funnel. So not everything should be about, here's my offer, here's my product, buy it, here's my product, buy it, because that sits very much in the do section. And although we should create content like that, it can't be all we're saying. So we have to create content that kind of gets people through the funnel. And as you can see, I've put some examples on the left and right hand side of what content you could use at certain points of the funnel. We then look at the metrics, and like I said, just about a couple of minutes ago, we have to measure what it is we're trying to achieve. So if we want people to see our business, for us, we run YouTube ads, and we run them to people that have been on our website before. So if you've ever been on our website, you may have seen a YouTube ad of Sleeping Giant Media's somewhere. We don't measure that in how many sales we make off that YouTube ad or how many clicks it gets to the website. We measure it in watch time, because I want people to have watched that whole advert. So it's important we're measuring what we're doing. So going back to the question of how do I make a social media post that sells, I would say it would have to be a blockbuster offer just to sell straight off the bat, or hit an audience at a perfect time. Otherwise, you have to build content that kind of gets your audience thinking about what you do and trusting in your product. I would ask if that answered your question, but I don't think he's in the room. I'm going to give you an example of this. So this is a client of ours. But you can see how content, if you see at the beginning in the C section, we've got giveaways, we've got competitions, that helps their brand get seen. Moving on to the next section and think, they're talking about their product knowledge, they're getting their clients to, or their audiences to realize they are the subject expert in that area. Next section is do, so they throw an offer in, or they throw a suggestion in, a well-timed offer of an MOT maybe. And then the care information is like the free stuff they give away to their audience just because they care about them, essentially. So kind of doing Q&As with professional racing teams and that kind of stuff. So our content should always do that. And if we wanted to weight it up, I would say you need to weight it up proportionally to your needs at that time. When COVID happened, there was a massive need for see and think because nobody was really buying immediately. So we all kind of paused direct selling. Like if you were direct selling in those first few months, it wasn't a good move. But now people are ready to direct sell again. So how much proportionally you split your time and content into these 4 sections depends entirely on your business need at that particular time.
But that's key to note is time. Time is important. This doesn't just come from 1 or 2 posts on any social media platform. You really have to put in the time. It is like any other marketing platform. It has to have constant efforts into it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Yeah,
it's depending on your funnel, isn't it? How long that time is. So as an agency, we could get someone into the top of our funnel, C, and maybe 7 years later they complete it, do. Like that's how long our funnel could be, 5, 6, 7 years. We hope not, but sometimes we have had cases where that is the thing. For your business, it could be a week, like it could be a day. It could be that it's a really hot day and you sell barbecues, and suddenly, like you don't have to really get many people through your funnel. You can just target do at them. So yeah, time is crucial. And with any activity, the more you do it, the better. Molly,
I'm noting questions.
You're
down.
noting questions.
So.
Got so many people helping me. Thank you. Okay, so that's kind of the see, think, do, care. So to answer the question, how do you make a social media post into a sale or product service? Either have a great product at a great price and hit the audience perfectly, or build your content so it isn't just all about the do. Add see, think, do, and care. Care is probably the strongest one in there, actually. If you can get a customer and get them to do your marketing for you, that's a complete bonus.
That's how I buy most things on Instagram, so it works.
Influencer marketing is massive because of that very thing. We've just launched an affiliate program, which is all about word of mouth and referrals. Yeah, if you can get people to do your marketing for you, that's almost a better result.
And that's why we could be here for an hour today.
Yeah, that's why we're here for an hour. Okay, so there was another question in the room. Let me sip some water while you read this, because the psychology tells me you've read it before I have.
This is from Elizabeth Bryant from DHA.
So this is essentially, we use LinkedIn a lot. Are you in the room, Elizabeth?
Yeah, she's here.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your question, by the way. LinkedIn's an odd one, and this is an algorithm question. This is essentially what's happening behind the scenes in order to make LinkedIn do this. So to answer your question, you're right. If you put an outward link on a LinkedIn post, LinkedIn will devalue that and it won't show it to as many people. Engagement on LinkedIn is all about how many people engage with it in the first few moments of its launch. And if you get a good mass, it sends it to a second circle of your people that follow you. So you have a first audience, a second audience, a third audience, and LinkedIn works out how to send these on depending on how successful they are in the time period that you sent it. LinkedIn wants you on their platform. They want you to see their adverts, like it's a money-making platform. They want you to see the content. So anything that sends anybody away, they will devalue. There are ways around it. I made this doc, so we did an experiment at the end of last year where we looked at what works on LinkedIn. if you want access to this document, scan the QR code on your phone, or Amber will pop.
I'm not in the
Amber's
chat.
not in the chat.
But if you connect with us, either of us, on LinkedIn, then we can.
That's a good way to do it. Connect with us on LinkedIn, and we can definitely send you a copy of it, or scan the QR code on the screen. It's a PDF, but it looks at how you can optimize your posts a little bit better on LinkedIn. A few caveats. This was as of kind of January, and things change obviously all of the time. Cool. And what works for us doesn't always work for everybody else. So that's also a couple of caveats. To answer the question, if you make a post without the link, post it, get a bit of engagement on it, whether that's internal or people you know, and then go back and edit the link and pop your post back in, that will normally give you more success than doing anything else. Dropping a link in the comments, although a lot of people do it, isn't ideal because you lose that link quite quickly in a thread of comments. And the idea is you want them to see that link, or you wouldn't have put it there in the first place. So that would be my suggestion.
There are different, and as you can see in the report, there are different ways it works with a link based on whether you are doing it for a personal profile or a business profile as well. I can see, I've experimented, I've gone through the DHA's LinkedIn, you've got very good engagement on all of your posts actually, but I see you don't link out as much, and it's obviously working for you. But including a link every now and then is still good. We do it a lot on our posts, and almost all of them have got a link out to a website, but we do get the clicks through. The engagement doesn't necessarily show that. There's not hundreds of likes on the post itself, but I track the traffic that comes through to our website from those using UTMs, and we get hundreds of clicks. That's a
very good point, actually. Personal accounts, that's how that works. Business accounts, you can go a bit more link crazy. There are different rules for business and personal accounts. Personal account, you should post once or twice a day. Business account, doesn't matter. Post every hour if you want. It won't penalise you for doing so. So there are slight differences,
yeah,
for sure. But yeah, that's what's
happening. Read the report and you'll find out.
Read the report and you'll find out. This is another LinkedIn question, and it's B2B and B2C. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Graham Taylor.
Cool, Graham Taylor.
From
Ooh.
Graham Taylor and Grivers.
I was hoping it was the England football manager, but I don't think he's with us anymore, unfortunately. But Graham, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the question. B2B and C customers, how can you connect with new people on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram to connect with a friend on Facebook when you don't know them? This is often a question we get, isn't it? There's a few things. I wrote some notes beforehand. That's why they look like this, because I didn't format them in time. There's a couple of things here. Personal accounts versus business accounts. If we're talking about our own personal Facebook, Danny Windsor on Facebook, I rarely use that in a work capacity. It's for my family, it's for my friends, it's for my mum to see pictures of my children. It's that kind of platform for my personal account. We have business pages for Sleeping Giant Media. So in terms of like going out and finding new followers who don't even know us, it's not really a personal thing, it's a business thing. So I've put on here, it's follow rather than friends on Facebook. If you have a business page, you're connecting with people, you're following them as a page rather than connecting with them as friends. Same with Instagram and on LinkedIn as well. It's a connect or a follow. You can actually go into the settings and change it to follow if you don't want it to be connect. And the report will say actually you'll get more following than you will connections. So if you want a bigger audience on LinkedIn, go for follow as a button, not connect. But in terms of how do I find new audiences as a business, you need to be in groups and communities and forums. Like you need to find these things on Facebook. Go into the search bar, type what it is you do, and then find out all the other groups and all the other forums where people are and join them. See what they're talking about, see what they're engaging with. Engage, talk with them about your products. Like don't go selling, but talk to the community. That's probably the best way to grow a page. Make sure you're engaging. If you want people to engage with you, you have to engage back out. And last, I put outreach. So that's when you take someone who's quite well known in your sector, could be local, could be global, and you try and get them to work with you, to share to their audiences. If you can get in front of like people with bigger audiences, that helps you grow as well. So that's kind of that question.
I'm right down the question. You get distracted by chat.
I just love answering questions so much.
And we'll get to them.
So really, I guess my advice here would be use business accounts. apart from LinkedIn, where you need a personal persona, but you're still a person on LinkedIn, not a business. So yeah, make sure you have business accounts. I would suggest.
You can, I mean, you kind of mentioned the groups, communities and stuff on Facebook. You can now join them and post in them as your page, your business page on Facebook. And that's especially true in things like, for example, we live in Folkestone, there's a Folkestone residents group. I can join that as the Sleep and Giant Media page or myself. And I can then go in and I can change a post. If I'm asking about whether I need a plumber, I do that as me. If I'm posting about a job we've got going in the Folkestone area, I do it as Sleep and Giant Media. Just mixing up those two things. It's quite a new tool, but yeah.
And I am going to answer some questions because they're relevant. So in finding an audience, hashtags, are they important and should I always use them? It depends on the purpose of that post. So if one of your purposes is reach or brand awareness, then yeah, you should use hashtags, because what hashtags do is it takes out of your audience pool. So you've got 100 followers, you do a post, it will go to those 100 people. That's they see it, and you're relying on them to share it for it to go to a wider audience. If you put a hashtag on it, then people that follow hashtags on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn get to see that piece of content as well. So it's a much more relevant audience. Depending on the platform, like I think Instagram optimum is 9 hashtags, LinkedIn 3.
Yeah, 1 to 3 on LinkedIn and 1 to 3 on Facebook. Facebook's hashtags are still quite new. You're not generally following hashtags on Facebook yet because their interface is a bit questionable sometimes, but that's new, and if you can be there before everybody else starts using them, then I highly recommend it. And LinkedIn, I think it's recommended now that you should be following at least 3 hashtags, and the same with your business pages as well. And they do work, but that is also an algorithm game to get up on the hashtags in those platforms.
Follow hashtags that are relevant in your sector on Instagram and LinkedIn. So if you don't do anything today other than go onto LinkedIn and Instagram, find people like you, and then follow hashtags, that will give you really good ideas all of the time. Like, I'm inspired by hashtag digital marketing, hashtag creative ideas. Like, I follow those people, so that inspires me. And business accounts are free on LinkedIn. Business pages are free on LinkedIn. If you want to run advertising, obviously there's costs attached to that. I'm going to answer one more question, Kaz. When I post on LinkedIn, the algorithms are pernicious. Okay, how can I defeat them and reach a more wide section of content? Good engagement in the first 5-10 minutes, Kaz, I would say. It will go to pool 1, and if that doesn't seem that successful in pool 1, it will go to pool 2.
With hashtags as well, you need to have a look at the ones you're using. Like 1 to 3 is optimum, but go in and look at the ones you generally regularly use and look if they have a big following, because it will say on LinkedIn. Because if only 3 people are following it, I wouldn't bother with that hashtag. Find something better. Things like innovation is one of the top hashtags on LinkedIn. It's a really good one, but obviously 6 million people are trying to use it too. So trying to make sure yours gets promoted above others in feeds is tricky.
Yeah,
and it will happen one day.
I think Kaz is looking at how can she get her content to her actual audience that are already following her, because obviously not everybody gets to see the post. Follow the optimization things in the document that we sent you the link to. For sure. I think one thing people think on LinkedIn is if they tag 1 million people in, that will get them more reach. And actually, unless those people engage within the first 15 minutes, it will be negative for your post. So actually, if you're going to go tagging in 3 or 4 people, make sure they're going to engage with that post in the first kind of 5 or 10 minutes. If they don't engage at all, it's a negative impact. It's something like minus 20% of the reach you would have got before. So all of that stuff's in that document we put together.
And just a quick one before you move on. Is there any point in advertising on LinkedIn? Yes, but again, it does depend on your business. Selling clothes on LinkedIn, I've not seen, for example, if you're a retailer like that, but it's a great tool for any objective you might have. It does cost a little bit more than Facebook's advertising, but and I'm just going to promote this now, we have actually got a free mini workshop on LinkedIn advertising that I can try and share with you in a minute. So go join that.
Yeah, plug. It's definitely worth doing. All advertising is worth doing if it's done correctly. It's often the way that's how it works. A good advert is one that works, and a bad advert is one that doesn't. So good adverts are worth doing on LinkedIn. Bad adverts probably aren't. Would be my answer, I think. Cool. I'm gonna go. So this was just to go back to that point around growing following. This was an objective of ours at the beginning of our lockdown. So when we went into lockdown, we changed all of our objectives and we changed our focus of the business, and we dumped every plan we had out the window, and we started again. And we wanted to grow the business page and our following faster than we were ever doing before. And there was a reason for doing that. One was to generate direct referrals and word of mouth inquiries into the business. I have to move my stuff on my screen. And the other one was to drive website visitors that I can remarket to later on if I want to. Or I can capture their email address and we can sign them up to a newsletter, or whatever the kind of call to action is on my website. So we had a real clear focus on what those two things were. And during that period of time, with the focus that we had 16 word of mouth tags by other people. We had 10 follow-up conversations, led to 8 leads, led to 3 new clients. So you've got to really measure what you're doing. If you want your LinkedIn to grow, why? So we had 2 reasons. And then we counted and measured those 2 reasons to make sure it achieved what we wanted it to achieve. And the result of which is in that document about LinkedIn. But it's really important that we have a goal. Here's some other numbers as well. Website traffic from LinkedIn was up 150% year on year. And this was during a pandemic compared to real world. And overall traffic was up 67.2% as a result of the effort we put into LinkedIn. So to go back to a question we had earlier, how do you sell on LinkedIn? How do you sell on social media? It's a long game. It's a long game, but there's 2 things, isn't there? You can optimize what you're doing from a technical perspective, and you make content that talks to your audience. Cool. Another question. Anything else on that one? You good?
I might as well answer the question that's in the chat right now, since it is relating to LinkedIn. It's about how on their Facebook page, their employees engage with it all of the time, but on their LinkedIn page, they rarely get content shared or commented on by employees, and do they need the comments to generate great engagement? This is something I'm sure most businesses will struggle with, because of the different intent of someone visiting each platform. It's after work. What you're going to do on Facebook is completely different to what you're going to do on LinkedIn, and a lot of people don't consider LinkedIn a social media platform to scroll through of an evening.
I do.
I do. It's part of my routine, but a lot of people still don't. So do you need these comments to generate engagement? It's kind of a yes. Comments, obviously, on LinkedIn will boost your engagement, will boost your reach, but asking your employees to do that,
it's chicken and egg. It's a longer funnel thing than that. So actually, the strategy we put together that got the results that we did was part of it was that employee engagement on our LinkedIn channel. That was part of it. But we realized we couldn't just keep telling them to do it, because who does what they're told? Like, we had to encourage and motivate and engage them into wanting to do it themselves. So we did. We've got other talks about how we did that, but we started measuring their results, and we rewarded successes, and we shared tips, and we created a community internally of like the LinkedIn gang, and it was like people that wanted to know more about it. So we created a culture where people wanted to get involved in it more, and then we educated them what we needed them to do for us. So, for example, commenting is more valuable than a share, because if you share a business blog or post, LinkedIn knows it's duplicate copy. It knows that post already exists elsewhere, so it's less valuable. It's not new, it's less valuable. So actually a comment from your employees is the best way of doing it. We get this a lot, actually. So we post out content, and we get, of an evening, more engagement from our giants on Facebook than we do on LinkedIn. But during the day, I'm noticing more and more on LinkedIn now. So
yeah. Depends on the content you're posting as well. For example, our Facebook, we use it to post more things about our teams and the more fun side of our business. Therefore, there's usually pictures of them which they can relate to more, or their colleagues. Whereas LinkedIn's obviously more business, and to them it's like, well, yeah, obviously. So they're not necessarily going to engage in the same way. Yeah,
that's another really interesting point. Our people are part of our content. They're one of our content strands. So we're making content about them most of the time. It's pretty hard not to like or comment or engage on a video that you're in, or picture you're in. So yeah, I would say try and do get engagement on your content from your staff if you can. We had to show them how important it was. So I showed them a graph of Sleeping Giant Media's reach on LinkedIn, and then I took everybody's personal reach on everybody's individual personal profiles. I added it to Sleeping Giant Media's, and it was that. So I showed them the effect that actually it would have on us building a brand new audience. And at the time, motivation was high because, you know, March pandemic, businesses were trying to survive. We were the same, so motivation was a bit higher. Does that answer that?
Yeah, I think so.
This was the biggest question we got. Who wrote this question?
This was from Les from Nice and Easy Cleaning Services.
It was Les in the room.
I don't think so, unless it's under a different name.
Okay. I don't have a nice and easy answer for you, Les, around how do you build a social media campaign and determine the content or channels to use. Not in the time frame we have today. I have some slides because they're relatively useful, and I think this is kind of fundamental to everybody's activity. So I just wanted to show you a few things. This is the slide we use when selling our social media services to people. So this is our process. This is what the teams do for clients. And this is what I'm going to kind of talk you through now. Not the sales pitch, but the process that we do for clients. And it's about identifying, creation, deploying, and evaluating. That in, say our campaign is 6 months, we do that over 6 months. If it's 4 years, we do that over 4 years. So that's roughly what it looks like. Kind of breaks down into these early sections. So number one, the identifying section is really important, and that's understanding what your goal is and therefore what your metric is. So like I said at the beginning, why are you in it? And therefore what do we measure to make sure we're in it still? Next section is we do a lot of work around target audiences, obviously, to make sure we've got the right personas and we're in the right groups. From there, we can analyze what platforms we want to be using, because where is that audience? You know, am I B2B, therefore my audience is LinkedIn and probably Facebook? Am I B2C? I've got Instagram and Facebook for that. And then we look at how we're going to split any paid budgets. A lot of people use social media organically, but obviously when you align a paid strategy alongside that, it grows exponentially. Organic is great. Organic growth on social media is great. We are massive advocates of it. In fact, we've grown Sleeping Giant Media's organically without much paid strategy behind that at all, which is
we're the organic specialists rather than
which is irony. So we look at budgets, we look at what the formats of our messages should be, and we look at any key dates or timings in the calendar that we can align activity to. You know, the hashtag days, Valentine's Day, Christmas, that kind of stuff. I suppose the new world, key timing and dates is the opening up of stuff. And that's when we should be lining our campaigns up. And then we go to the next section, excuse me, around kind of creation. Excuse me. We look at the timeline for the campaigns, we identify creative, we identify the structure. So that kind of means where somebody goes. So when somebody clicks on that link, they see that post, they click on that, it takes them to that page, they see those options. Like, we kind of flow out the structure of a campaign. We make sure everything is set up. Amber mentioned UTMs earlier, which stands for Urgent Tracking Module, which is fancy for a bit of code. I think I've got a slide actually. Here we go. A UTM. This leads to another question around how do I track my performance on social media? So this will be something that a lot of you are kind of wanting to know. How can I tell how successful that post really was? I said we want to drive people to our website. So actually it's always about getting someone to our website. We use a UTM, and a UTM is the URL up there, but all that gumph at the end of it. See that? UTM source equals social media at UTM. That piece of gumph that we put on our URL enabled me to see which post it came from on what platform. And you can see in a little breakdown at the bottom here, you've got the LinkedIn post, which took you to the website with that funny UTM. And then on the right there, I can look in Google Analytics and I can see which one of those posts on which platform drove the most people to my page. I can see how long they're on the website for. I can see whether they bought anything or completed any other goals. And this is free software. This is Google Analytics. We're not using anything fancy. Well, it's a bit fancy, but it's free. And UTMs really enable us to work out what's working and what isn't working. Because as a marketing department, we have to justify what we do, as everybody should. You know, if we're spending 30% of our time on social media, I need to prove that it isn't just social media that's working, but the individual channels and the individual pieces of content themselves.
Also quite fun for a competitive bunch like us to see who drove the most signups to an event.
Yeah, for an example, when we're doing an event, Amber will generate a UTM which is unique to all of us, which means at the end we can have a competition to see who drove the most signups to that event. So a little bit of competition often helps with that kind of stuff. And another way you can use tracking on social media, I said at the beginning, I want people to my website, and there's a very good reason why I want them on my website. Because the minute they land on my website, and this is all above board, you know, we enable cookies and everybody ticks on the banners. You essentially land on our website. We have a Facebook pixel, we have a LinkedIn pixel, which enables me to then advertise, not necessarily adverts, but content towards people that I know are already interested. They've already been on my website, so maybe they've been looking at a blog about social media. So when there's a new blog about social media, I can make an advert that they will see, and it won't be wasted on lots of other people that don't care. It'll be focused purely on that person that spent time on my website. So that's when marketing goes from being kind of dark and horrid to actually we're using data and digital to give people content they're interested in. I'm not just spamming everybody with it. I'm sending it to people.
It's not worth our budgets to be spamming everybody.
And I think that's the thing, when spending money online with budgets, you've got to be really refined. So I want people on my website so I can essentially get them later on if I need to with a message. As a business, it's an asset, isn't it? You all have your mailing lists, your databases, and that's an asset of your business, isn't it? If you had every single person that's ever been on your website cookied on Facebook, so you know you could talk to them with one advert, that's an asset. So cookied lists, sign up lists, contact lists, all that stuff, really good thing to be doing. So the question was, how do I make a campaign? I'm really giving you a top overview of how to build a campaign out.
Sorry, just to say, we will answer the questions I can see coming to chat in a moment.
Yeah, we will for sure. Then it's at this stage we start looking at what the posts and the creatives are. So we've done all the other work before we even get to the point of posting creatives, how we're going to distribute it, how we're going to distribute it organically for optimum performance, and how we're going to engage with the audience once they've got on that. And then, oh, where are we here? Deploying. And a big part of deploying is essentially this. It's what channels do I push that content to which audience member? And there was a question, I think there were two questions in that top level question. How can I decide which channels I should use to speak to my audience? Yeah. And I think it goes down to the very beginning that you said around goals. What is it you want those people to do? Who are those audience members? And then that should help dictate what channels you go for. Mm-hmm. Like we run different content types on LinkedIn than we do on Facebook. We run different content types on Twitter than we do on Instagram, for example, because we know the motivations of the audience. So it's worth bearing in mind that no digital channel is fully effective in isolation.
You could have a social media presence on every form of social media going, and we do for our brand, but that's because we've got the time and a department dedicated to being able to push content, but tailored content to each one. Whereas some companies just don't have that resource, and that's okay. Find the ones you can dedicate your time to and stick to that. What can be detrimental is going onto a Twitter account for someone's business and seeing they've not posted since 2014. I then don't trust that either that company is still, around, or that they don't have the time to update something they set up at the beginning. So it's making sure that, yes, none of them are effective in isolation, but if you can only dedicate time to one or two, then make those your priority.
Yeah, social channels can work in isolation. You could only have an Instagram. I mean, this is looking at search and all the other elements as well. But yeah, that point around, it's better almost to not have a presence on Twitter than to have a 3-year-old account that hasn't been used. It's almost better for that not to exist. So that's worth noting. If you don't have the time and effort to put into some of these accounts, work out how valuable they are to you. So it's a case of working out which content goes into which tube is how I like to think of it. Like when I've got a new campaign, it's like, do I send that? Do I make a PPC ad about that? Do I optimize for SEO about that campaign? Do I make an email send? I'll probably do a social media series of scheduled posts. I'll put it on YouTube. I'll do a bit of outreach. There's lots of ways in which a campaign can be built and executed. So the questions to use are, which people of mine are at the end of which funnel, and what are their motivations to engage with that campaign? As Amber said, when you're on LinkedIn, you're normally engaging in a business capacity. When you're on Instagram, do you want to be distracted from what you're doing on Instagram? What are the motivations behind the user? Nice. And to give you a quick overview on how we do that, we have content themes. So we've devised 3 content themes, 4 during the pandemic being one of them. 3 content themes that we work with as Sleep and Giant Media. I'm going to give you an overview of what a content theme is. And the idea here is when you're stuck for what to post, your content theme guides you. It tells you what the content you could be making is. So here's an example of a content theme. This is a company called Sweet Green, and they do farm-to-table restaurant dedicated to organic cuisine and sustainability. So quite a good mission, quite a good product, quite a good focus. They had a look at what their customers were posting about. So they didn't say, this is what I'm going to tell my customers. They worked out what their customers were already posting about. And they worked out they were posting about music, eating right, and staying in shape. That kind of made sense, didn't it, for that product, that the audience would be into those kind of things. So they created content themes that mirrored what their audience was already talking about. One of them was pairing music and food. So like playlists to listen to when eating certain meals. Eating right, farm to table. So they did a lot of content around the journey of food from the farm to the table. And then they did a community fitness program, where if you went to their restaurants, you also got access to a community fitness program. And if you think about it, community fitness program has nothing to do with selling restaurant food at all. But they understood that as a content type would drive an audience. So we have content themes at Sleep and Giant Media. Ours are the application of digital marketing, inside the Giant, so talking about us as a business and our staff and our successes and failures, and business. And business, which is obviously we're a well-performing business. So we talk about, business thought leadership as well. So having a content theme is really useful. Once you have that content theme, it's about working out how to make content out of it. And we use what we call the content pyramid, and it's not ours. I think Gary V. Vaynerchuk actually devised the content pyramid. But it's the notion that you have one piece of content that you put most of your effort into, and then you break all of that down into smaller pieces. So if we're making an 11-minute video about how to do something online, we can break that down into GIFs, smaller videos. We turn it into a blog. We put the transcript on our website. We run a YouTube ad. We turn things into memes. We break down that big piece of content into little layers that do different things at different times. And this should answer the question around, like, I don't know what to post and I don't have time to make stuff. It's like, if you can find time to make one quality piece of content with a bit of practice, it doesn't take long to kind of break that down. There's a couple of caveats. They still need to bring value individually. You can't just take the last 5 seconds of a video that has no context and share that. And it must be optimized at the platform. So if you're posting on Instagram in the wall, it needs to be square. If you're putting on stories, it needs to be 9:16. If you're posting on LinkedIn, it needs to be a rectangle or a square. All these types of optimization for different platforms. These are 2 nice slides. If you want to screenshot them, feel free. But there are different types of content that aren't just video. And there's 100 here, so there's one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's the other one. With video being at the end of it, video is very good content for engagement. It's also very time consuming and can be a bit expensive to make if you count time as cost, which we should. Therefore, before you just go, oh no, I need videos, there's 99 other things that you can do before you get to video. Exaggerating. It took long enough to write the list of 99. I am not writing the list of 1 million. Here are some free tools. Or are they all free?
Yeah.
I think they are. Here are some tools that we use to make a lot of our content. Bizarrely, screen capture. So if you know how to take a screenshot on your computer, probably makes up 80% of our content mix, I would imagine. Screenshotting things. Like we make stuff on our website knowing that we might screenshot it into a square post and then post that onto LinkedIn. Like there's lots of time-saving things you can do. These are some great apps. CutCap, that last one, the video editing one, is my favorite video editing app of all time.
I think it's actually CapCut.
I think it's CapCut.
I think you put the words the wrong way around.
It is CapCut. CapCut.
CapCut is one of those tools that we're just waiting for it to be hit with a paywall that's going to cost like 60 quid to download the app, because it is brilliant.
It's a free app, but it's probably worth at least 60 quid a year to use.
Yeah.
The video editing elements on it are really powerful. So there's some cool apps. And Mosho, anyone new to video, download Mosho as an app. You can animate montage videos really quickly. You can add music to them. You can add text. Really cool. I am coming to the chat.
If you go through this section quickly, then we'll come through to them because we'll be running out of time soon.
Got to do it quickly. Okay, here we go. How do I measure and compare the success of my social media activity? Which is the evaluate section. And it brings me down to the see, think, do, care funnel yet again. Unless we're measuring the right thing, we don't know if it's successful. If I measure an inbound sale to the business as the measure of success for everything, I'm going to be really disappointed a lot of the time. Because like I say, we run ad campaigns that cost us money but don't have a direct return on investment against them because they're up there at sea, they're doing something else for me. So in terms of measuring your success, know what that success is, and if it's follower growth, if it's reach, if it's engagement, if it's referrals, what is it? Sign-ups, app downloads, follow, shares, brand searches. That's a really good one. A lot of people will see you on social media and then go and search for you on Google at some point when they want your services. So making sure you're there when somebody searches for your brand name is really key.
Again, we've got workshops.
We have workshops to help with that. But that's really key as well. See, think, do, care. We don't complete everything in one journey. This could be a week, it could be a month. I used to tell a story about sunglasses and how I saw somebody with some nice sunglasses. So I went and followed that Instagram page and I liked the sunglasses, and we were getting ready to go to Ibiza as a company. And I really liked the sunglasses, and then I clicked on their page, I followed it, I saw some ads a little bit later and I clicked on their ads, and I didn't buy anything after clicking on their ads. About a week later, I was like, who was that company that served me that ad? I Googled, I found the website, I bought the glasses, and at the end of that journey, I then posted those glasses on my Instagram, on my face in Ibiza, and I had 3 people ask me where those glasses came from. I tagged the company back in, and they probably made more sales off the back of that. That is how the digital online purchasing journey goes. It's rarely a rash decision. Well, if you want rash decisions, advertise on Instagram.
Yes.
That's when the most rash decisions are normally made.
Product specific.
So measure what you need to measure to determine success is what I'd say. We measure website traffic. It's an important metric for us because we want that audience, not just on social media, but we want to own it. We don't want Mark Zuckerberg to own that audience. We want to own it ourselves. It becomes our business property when it sits on our website, not on Facebook. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. That's how our strategies and campaigns come together.
I'm going to sort out the chat because there were lots of questions.
There are lots of questions.
I'm going to first of all go for the one that we did actually ignore from the beginning. And sorry, no offense. Was it Brian? You asked about how long a video should be on LinkedIn and Twitter, or LinkedIn, Twitter.
You got this? Or do you want me to?
You go for it. I'm going to sort the questions.
I think it depends on how good the video is from our learning. I think a lot of people would say kind of 1-2 minutes is like a maximum on LinkedIn, but it depends what you want to do. Like, people are more willing to watch longer format video content now than they ever were before. I think the lesson maybe 3 or 4 years ago was under 60 seconds, keep your video under 60 seconds, keep it punchy. But if it's good enough, people will watch for a long time. Our latest Giant Wednesday is like 15 minutes long.
Well, there's platform intent. Obviously, you go to YouTube to watch a video. So you're more than willing to watch a video that's either 3 minutes or 4 hours. Whereas LinkedIn, you don't necessarily go there, and Twitter, you don't necessarily go there to watch video, do you? You go there to learn something new, to engage with your customers or other people in the business world. So actually, for stumbling across a video is more of an interruption to what you came on that platform to do. So you've got to make sure that those first 3 seconds are going to engage them, which you'll probably hear all the time, to make them go, oh, okay, I'll stop what I came here to do to engage with your video. And then you have to keep them engaged. So as long as you could have a 2-hour video on LinkedIn, maybe, I don't know what the limits are, so long as you actually make it interesting, which seems like a really obvious thing to say.
Watch time is important on LinkedIn's algorithm, actually. So percentage watch time completion is important. So for that regard, keep your videos short, and that way you're going to increase your percentage quickly. 1 second of a 10-second video is 10%. So trying, maybe, depending on the types of content you have, if it's short format, I would keep it under a minute. Otherwise, don't be scared to go for longer formats and then use YouTube. A lot of people don't use YouTube, and I think when you post a video on LinkedIn, it's gone. It's gone. It's sitting somewhere on your profile. Even you will have trouble finding that video again. You put it on YouTube, people are searching that platform. So actually, it's the second biggest search engine in the world. It appears at the top of Google in the organic searches. If you have a video that links to YouTube on your website, you're going to get more traffic. Like, all of the good things say put your videos on YouTube. So put your videos on YouTube.
How much time do you dedicate to social media each day, including creating videos?
Oh, all of the time in the world. Amber does the day-to-day management of our social media. So honestly,
I can work out how much time I spend. When I first started doing a social media for a company, I would probably spend a dedicated hour or two a day doing bits and bobs across all different platforms. But now it's so much part of my day-to-day that I'm sitting there doing something, I go, ooh, and go and post. And that takes 2 seconds, because actually, as you know the platforms better, the content better, your content themes, making a post will take you 5 seconds, as long as it takes you to type that status and find that picture. So it very much depends on what you want to do.
It's that learning cycle I showed at the beginning. You're right, when we started doing this, we spend much more time on social media than we do now. It's much easier to do social media now, organically, reactive. Time-wise, split out your channels and split out your objectives. If you want to sell through social media 50% of your product, then spend 50% of your selling time on social media, I would suggest. But
also split out your social media, so the posting, the distribution and the engagement, to your creation of your video content, as you were suggesting. Content creation is a completely different kettle of fish. It just happens to be that social media is your platform for distributing that piece of content. So
yeah, when we started, we made the content and we distributed the content, and now our team has grown to 4. We have a video maker and we have a content maker, and a lot of the time Alex will focus on the creation of the content and you'll focus on the distribution and the optimization of the content.
But that might be 3 weeks after he's made that video. So
to answer the question, I hire someone full-time to make content for social media, and not just social media, for our website, testimonials, all of our marketing activity. And I would say probably 50% of his time is spent making content for social. And then I would say time-wise, it doesn't slot into our calendars. It's now on top of what we do normally. It just interjects into our day-to-day. We did try, scheduling is a good call. So you could go, actually, I'm going to spend half a day on a Monday and schedule 2 weeks worth of content. Just be aware of scheduling, because it takes your eye off the ball a little bit and you become less creative, less inspired. The content doesn't do as well because you're not close to it.
You're not reactive to a trend or something happening in the world right now.
And saying all of this, if I was to look at our Facebook page now and pull out the most engaged with posts on our Facebook over the past month, I know it will be the post that took 5 seconds to make and post, compared to the high value video that I
waiting
have.
For your coffee to be made.
Yeah, the on the toilet post, waiting for your coffee to be made type post. That generally has higher engagement rates than anything we plan. So scheduling takes away that ability to be reactive, I would say.
Okay, we have got a limited amount of time, so we are.
I've got a day.
Do you have a list of yearly social media calendar events and dates that you were talking about? We again.
Google it.
Yeah, there's loads. I think Twitter have got a really good calendar you can download, but events and stuff, or trending days, for example, if you go to daysoftheyear.com, that's a really good one. There's a lot of American stuff on there, so you have to kind of work out which one fits better with your audience, because obviously UK-based businesses should base their trends on the UK.
Try and make a calendar which is relevant to your business and
Yeah.
sector, which you won't find from somebody else. So we've got the basic days of the year, and like they help inspire us on a monthly basis. So what we're going to do this month? Well, it's Hamburger Awareness Day, so let's do something for hamburgers. But actually, like that's just nice to have. It's not important to our strategy that we celebrate Hamburger Day.
It's a good filler. It's a good content filler.
But what we should be talking about is like Digital Detox Day, because actually that audience is much more relevant to us. Or like sector-specific days, like a new Google rollout. Like, for example, I'll have a calendar that tells me when updates to Google are going on and stuff like that, because that's more relevant to me. So, you know, when is it the business's birthday? When is it the CEO's birthday? When was the business founded? What exciting sponsorship deals do we have coming up in the year? What events have we got coming up?
And after you do this again, learning cycle once, you'll start to know when roughly these times are each year, and it will just come to you. I know when each month is at this point. So
once you've done one calendar year, time hop is a really great way to remember your strategy for the next year. So just look at time hop.
Right, so what number of reach qualifies as good on Facebook? Ooh.
It depends, doesn't it? Like, it depends on what you're doing, what your audience is. People are obsessed with vanity metrics in terms of like the highest amount of followers possible, but I would take 100 actual followers over 1 million people that aren't that interested in my product every single day. So,
and if you mean reach in terms of like the impressions of a single post, for example, obviously you get that number quite easily on Facebook pages. I've had like 20 clicks to a website from a reach of 50 people before, and then sometimes on another post I've reached 12,000 people and had 1 click.
It's a very good point. I looked on Twitter and I looked at a post this morning actually that had impressions, that had 250,000 impressions, but only gained 1 follower off the back of 250,000 people seeing it. Only 1 new follower followed the account. So it really depends. Reach is, what I would say of reach is you want to make reach as big as possible across all platforms, because the more people you reach and the more people you're talking to. So it's important. It depends on the message to some degree.
Will the slides be emailed to us? You can get in touch again through LinkedIn or something.
I want our slides.
Yeah, get in touch and we can send them over.
Yeah, I'll send them to Molly, and Molly can deal with that, I'm sure.
How important is a Google My Business page? Do you have a physical building to visit? Do you have a website, provide a physical service? Very important. Again, I have got a workshop on Google My Business. Google My Business, some people do consider this as a social media platform. Some people don't, because it's part of local search and local SEO. Google My Business, I'm just going to talk really quickly because we're running out of time, but Google My Business is important whether you have a physical store or not. Even if your office is your home, you don't want people coming to your home, I'm sure, but you do want to share that you've got that service in that area. Set one up, but get in touch because I can help you.
It's really important for local search. And I don't know if you've seen the adverts by Google on TV. They're pushing Google My Business with TV advertising. That's how, like, coming out of the pandemic, Google My Business and local search is going to be bigger than ever, because people want to find things around them safely. Anything else?
With myth, but I can't speak now. With myth busting, do you not title a post with Mythbuster? Oh, I feel like I need more context to that post, Brian.
Yeah, bust that myth, Brian, and let us.
You can unmute if you want. Otherwise, I think we've covered all the questions. So if anyone has any more they want to shove in there.
But just go back. If your content was myth busting, then yeah, definitely put myth busting in the title of the post if that's what that question is.
Keywords.
Yeah, think about what somebody would search to find that thing.
Because social media content is indexed on search engines. So Twitter, for example, all your tweets can be found from a Google search.
Yeah.
So and LinkedIn.
And from an SEO perspective, link your social media accounts on your website to your social media accounts. Make sure you're doing that. Make sure your websites are linked on your social media accounts are linked on your website. It will just help Google navigate their way round to you.
Read it.
Danny, do you mind if I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so it was regarding putting links in LinkedIn. Someone last year, I've forgotten his name, it was Dan Marsden, suggested that there was a way around the linking of the comments. Because as you say, LinkedIn doesn't, no social media likes a link away from their platform. They want you stuck on a platform. But he found a way, and I've been trying it and testing it, and I think it does work to a degree, and I'm curious on your view, is if you put the link in the comment, as you say, if you put the link in the comment, people can lose it because it will get lost in the comments as things go. But one thing you can do when you have a comment on your post, you can actually click the three dots and you can get the link to that specific comment. And then what I do is I re-edit the post and put that link to the comment in the post, because when you click it, it takes you to the LinkedIn post with the comment. So you're not coming off the platform.
Yes, man.
Had you heard of that before?
I haven't.
No, that sounds quite clever.
I haven't heard of that. You're essentially link baiting into thinking LinkedIn and sending it to itself. That is a nice way of doing it. I'd be interested to see how that works. Like, I'm a big fan of proof is in the pudding. So yeah, I might run some experiments on that and have a look, and I'll get back to you and let you know how it goes. But yeah, if it's working for you, it works for you. Keep doing it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I did actually test it about a month ago. I put the direct link in my post on LinkedIn, and the post just didn't go out. It didn't go anywhere. And then I tried the next week. I continued to do what I used to do, and I noticed the posts. You know, my posts regularly get up to 1,000 views. I had one the other week, a couple of months ago, that actually, 4 weeks ago, that reached 4,000 people. So it's working.
Yeah, working. In terms of reach, that question earlier around what reach is good. Yeah, I would celebrate a reach personally on my own account of over 1,000 people on LinkedIn. So yeah, I think 4,000 reach is, you know, good. I say celebrate. Like if it doesn't hit 1,000, I'd burn the place down. But if it hits 1,000, that's kind of where I want it to be. But no, that sounds.
I should go do a dance in the garden now. One sec, be back in a moment.
So thank you very much for your question.
And then one final one that came through privately, but have 3 brands and websites now, plus 3 main social media sites. How do I set up an overall brand above these 3 brands to save on posts?
It depends. If those brands are all individual brands for a reason, because you need different audiences and different things like that, then you can't just have one overall voice. If the 3 brands are similar brands and similar audiences, because the brands are based on products, then well, I can't think why there would still be a top name brand somewhere, wouldn't there? There'd still be a top level, like for us, Sleeping Giant Media, Giant Campus, Spark Agency. We've got different subcategories. So if they're different, you can't.
It's like if you're Quick Fit and you've got different garages in different parts of the country, then you might look to have a Folkestone based page, for example, and then your content on there should be tailored to that Folkestone audience. There's all sorts of whether that is the right approach to have, and it depends on your business entirely as to whether that's needed. But having an overarching one is, you don't want to duplicate content, so you don't want to have the content on your main umbrella brand page and then have the same 3 posts go out on your other 3. So it would help you save on posts if you had 1, but if you're going to have 1, then get rid of the 3, because obviously you wouldn't need the 3 pages. So it's whether you need them or not, I think.
Yeah, totally. If it's one audience you're talking to, just have 1 channel. If you've got 3 audiences you're talking to, have 3 different channels. But you really identify that will be more work. So it will be more work. Yeah, I don't know if I can answer much beyond that. But thank you for the question.
That's all the questions.
Yeah, I've had a flick through the chat, and I think that's all the questions are. So thank you so much. Unless anyone else has any, then please pop them in the chat or unmute yourselves now. Otherwise, I know that we're quite tight for time. So I guess just thank you so much. You know, the main thing from today is that everyone's got different businesses. So, you know, to be able to ask their own personal questions in their own ways, they might overlap, but you know, it's really important for us to be able to answer these questions for people. So thank you for giving your time today. And hopefully
we love doing it. So yeah, do reach out if you've got any questions.
And just to say as well, I know that you guys have mentioned the workshops that you do, and for anyone for attending, you know, I've attended some of those myself as well. They're really useful, so definitely do check out their workshops. Attend some of those, all of them. Attend those. They're really insightful, and there's time for questions there as well. So definitely do check out their website. And yeah, try and go to some of the workshops too.
I think we delivered 100 in the last year,
in
in the last calendar year. So do jump on them. Hello, thank you everybody. Thanks for your time. I'm glad the internet stayed up.
And it's still sunny outside.
No, thank you very much, and yeah, hopefully see everyone soon.
Brilliant event. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.